Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to our TV show, episode 3. Today we will look at the results of the top 10 schools. Steve will walk us through, and we will have short discussions. And we would love to see your comments. We would love to hear your thoughts. Good evening, Steve. How are you?
Good day, Louis. I'm great. How are you today?
I'm very good. I'm very excited for today. I think
Yes,
it's going to be epic. I think it's going to be shocking in some kind of a way, but let's delve into that and let's see what it holds for us for today.
absolutely. As we are on to our second part of the top 10, this time we are looking at the last week. We looked at the standout players and the
Yes.
top 10. Now we're going to look at the results, team by team for the season and how they actually did, match by match.
Right.
Right. Our first team, of course, in 10th is one of your traditional strong schools in the Western Cape. It's, of course, Rondebosch. And
Yes.
if we can go right to the bottom, to their first game,
Let's go down.
awesome. They started off their season on a good high note, 10-7 against Oakdale.
Yes.
Oakdale, of course, was also in the top 10 this year. JP, traditionally one of the strongest schools in Gauteng,
Mhm.
38-15. Nelspruit, your strongest school in Mpumalanga, 47-12. That's a good win.
Yes.
Milnerton, 28-17. And then they lost against Case, one of your top schools, also in the top 100, and one of your top schools in Gauteng. They lost 17-20. Queen's College 33-0. And this is for me the biggest problem for me and a concern for me was whenever they faced one of the top 3 schools in South Africa, they lost significantly and quite comprehensively. 12-55. Now, Paul Boys obviously was number one, but still, to lose 12-55, that's quite significant. You have to be, if you want to be in the top 5, you have to be consistent against your top 3 oppositions and the top 5 oppositions. You cannot afford losses like that. That wasn't the only comprehensive defeat. Stellenberg, 22-23. Sachs followed it up with a good win, 40-17. Boland Lampo, 57-26. And then Weinberg, quite a grueling match, 33-38.
Mm.
Bishop's good, strong victory, 28-7. And then they second against Paul Roos, the number 2 team in South Africa. Also a significant comprehensive defeat, 12-48. That was for me the concern of Rondebosch.
Yes.
RTS Rosti 34-19. And then, of course, in the final match against Sachs, 23-20. But if you look at Rondebosch's season, I would say the biggest concern for me is consistency. And then, of course, those comprehensive defeats, they've got to make it a bit closer if they really want to be up there and be competitive and
Yes.
competing for a top 5 position.
Yes. Agreed. Right. Now, let's go.
Right. Number 9.
Number 9. Yeah.
And we are going to move basically to the Gauteng. And of course, the team that was in 9th position this year was, of course, Garsfontein.
Yes.
And they, of course, won the Val Trophy. They were the 2025 champions of the Val Trophy. They of course beaten Helpmekaar in a grueling final.
Yes.
But if we look at the season or that Garsfontein had, if we can go to the screen and have a look at the season.
Right. So here we are now. And also we must remember out of the top 10, they are the
Yeah,
babies, right? So
yeah,
um and that is quite significant. So that's very good.
yeah. Many of your old traditional schools like Paul Roos, Paul Boys were established early in the 19th century, between 1860 and 1900. I mean, even if you look at Affis,
Yeah.
they were established in the 1920s. But
Correct.
Garsfontein, on the other hand, were established 1988, which makes them younger than 40 years.
Yes. Yes.
So they started the season in a friendly warm up, 26-18 against JP. Noordheuvel 34-28, and then they competed in the Noord-Suid tournament, and strong performance against Paul Roos. That match could have gone
Yes.
anywhere. 32-34. It could have gone either way, as they say.
Yes.
Stellenberg 25-18. Helpmekaar, that was their first match in the Noordwil Cup. They beat Helpmekaar that finished 12th in the rankings in 2025, 47-29.
Yes.
Affies 25-41 in a derby match, and then they went to the Wilderklaar Festival. A good solid draw against Oakdale, the Giant Slayers, as we called them last week. Great College 29-45, and then it was Noordwil Cup time again. 53-19 against Waterkloof. Now that's, for me, is very significant. If you think about Waterkloof, they're traditionally one of your top schools in Gauteng.
Yes.
Always up and about there. Have won the Beale Trophy a couple of times.
Yes.
Menlo Park was also one of your strong teams this year. I believe they also finished in the top 20 in the rankings, 40-27. Nelspruit, your top school of Mpumalanga, 32-20.
Yes.
And then they followed it up against Rustenburg with a solid 33-27 victory, and then Transvalia, 43-41. And then, of course, Monument, also significant. As I said, Monument was also traditionally one of your top schools in Gauteng. And look at that result, 68-17.
Yes.
Now, in the 90s, Monument have won the Beale Trophy. That was the old Noordwil Cup. They've won the Beale Trophy a couple of times.
Yes.
And to beat Monument 68-17, for me, that's quite significant of the strides that Garsfontein have made as a school.
Yes.
Noordheuvel, they lost 22-28, and then they followed up with a strong victory against E.G. Jansen, 31-24. And then it was time for the playoffs. Semi-final, Menlo Park, they've beaten 45-29, and then the big final against Helpmekaar.
Yes.
Which they've won 30-19. I believe you watched that match, Louis.
Yes, I did. And well done on Garsfontein. They really came to the party that day. Helpmekaar, don't take anything away from them. I just think especially the last 20 minutes, the wheels came off, and Helpmekaar had no answer. It was they were all over the show, and they had no answer. And they took the opportunities. They scored some very late tries in those last 20 minutes. And I think that was where Helpmekaar didn't have a comeback, unfortunately, after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's team number 9. As we're going to go now to team number 8, of course, which is, for me, is quite an interesting one. Last week, I've named them the Giant Slayers of 2025. And you're going to look at some significant results, why they were called the Giant Slayers. And we, of course, are talking about Oakdale College. They had an outstanding 2025 season.
Yes.
And they can easily compete for a stake in the top 5 rankings for 2025, 2026.
Yes. Then, right. So now, all right. So
awesome.
Let's get into this. Right. So let's go down to the bottom. Oops, a little bit far. There we go.
First match of the season for Oakdale was against Great College. 10-25 loss. Rondebosch, quite a tough match. Lost 7-10. And then a significant comprehensive victory against Nelspruit, 45-12. Helpmekaar, finalists of the Noordwil Cup, they've beaten Helpmekaar 40-21. And look at this. That was a huge upset against the number 1 team of South Africa, Paarl Boys High. 28-26 for Oakdale College. Yes. No wonder they were called the Giant Slayers. Frampsby, they absolutely thrashed Framesby 75-0. And then Gasfontein, the Vaal Trophy
Winners.
champions of
Yes.
25 of 2025, a draw, 30 all. JPIM, one of your strongest teams in Gauteng, 42-27. Durbanville, 43-7. Stellenberg, also a good solid victory, 47-17. And then we go to another significant result before we get there. Paul Gymnasium, they lost 9-29. Outeniqua, solid, comprehensive, thrashing defeat, 50-7. Joss team, 31-7. And then in the final matches of the season, look at this. Paul Roos Gymnasium, the number 2 team in South Africa, 21-17. So they've managed to beat the number 1 team in South Africa, and they managed to beat the number 2 team in South Africa.
Yes.
Quite significant, incredible. And then, of course, the final match was against Boland Landbou, which they lost 27-34.
Yes.
So all in all, outstanding season. I think the only reason for why they're not up in there closer to the top 5 was, of course, maybe consistency.
Yes.
Losses against teams like Paul Roos was a comprehensive defeat, 29-9. And then, of course, Boland Landbou. And then, of course, early in the season, I also had a loss.
Yes.
But I can very confident and with a lot of confidence say, watch out for Oakdale in 2026. My prediction for them will be position number 6,
right,
just outside the top 5 for 2026.
Okay, right. So I would agree with you on that one. They have shown they can, and I think again, like we always discuss, if you want to be in the top 5, you need to be consistent. So I think if they can really sort out a few things, who knows, maybe they will be able to get into the top 5, and let's see for how long they can stay there. So,
absolutely,
I absolutely vouch for them to be number 6 this year. I think you and me agree on that one. So let's keep an eye out for our Giant Slayers in 2026.
Absolutely. As we move up closer to the business section, but not quite there, in 7th, of course, is one of your top Natal schools. And the honors for number 7, of course, were Westville High.
Yes,
in 2025.
Yes.
Now, if we look at Westville's performance, as we were waiting for the results, quite significantly, Westville were unbeaten the entire season. They didn't lose one match. I think the only significant thing is that they didn't really play against one of the top 5 schools in South Africa. So obviously they couldn't really improve on their position since they didn't play any of the teams that was ranked above them.
Yes.
And if you want to improve your rankings, you've got to play against the top schools in South Africa. Yes. But all in all, they were unbeaten the entire season. And if you look at 2025, first game was against Hilton College, 23-15. Followed it up against Selborne, 45-13. Dale College, 28-13. Northwood, 16-14. Framesby, 31-0. 26-5 against E.G. Jansen. 24-17 against Rustenburg, and then against Cares, one of your traditional strongest teams in Natal, also one of the oldest historical schools. Good, solid 55 convincing victory, 55-31. Yes. Maritzburg College, 22-21. And then, of course, the team that finished just above them, Durban Boys, Durban High, I believe. Am I correct? 33-28. Yes. They actually beaten Durban High, 33-28. And then 42-25 against Glenwood. 33-15 against Kirsten College again. And then also 50-20 against Michael House.
Yes. And if you look at the results, if you look
was it sorry, Louis, was that the last match against Michael House?
Yes.
Okay.
That was. And if you look at Westville against the other Natal schools, the scores are very close. It's not a huge loss or a winning margin. So very, very interesting to see. And I think this is maybe a good thing that the Natal schools are so close that the
Yeah,
competition is very fierce. So
yeah,
whoever is really going to be consistent and hungry will be the number one spot for the Natal region. So very, very interesting if you look at the results here.
yeah. Yeah, they were quite unlucky not to have finished above Durban High. If you look at the season, they didn't lose one match. But
Yes,
obviously, Durban High School maybe were more consistent. Maybe we'll have a
correct.
look at Durban High Schools and compare it. It'll be
Yes,
interesting for me to see why Durban High School were ranked above them.
yes,
As we are moving now closer, now actually to position number 6.
yes. And here is Durban High School. Um, let's give it a second. Right, we are ready. Right, and then right here we have Durban High School.
So they started off the season against Maritzburg College. Strong, convincing victory, 29-13. Michael House, 28-20.
Yes.
Kingswood College, 41-20. Selburne, 35-5. Rustenburg, 41-7.
Hmm.
Monument, good solid victory, 32-17.
Yes.
Durbanville, 33-5.
Yes.
Northwood, 22-19. Stellenberg, 26-19. A bit of a heavy defeat against Paul Gymnasium. And once again, that shows you the difference between your top 5 schools and the rest of them,
Yes.
2047.
Yes.
Kirsten College, good solid victory, 42-20. Westville, of course, the team that finished just underneath them, 28-33. And then Hilton, 26-18. Jeppy, 24-10. And then Northwood in the return match, 38-5. Now, if you look, and then obviously the last game was against Case,
Yes.
52-19. Now, if you look at these results and the fact that Westville actually managed to beat him, I would say Durban Boys High were extremely lucky to finish in 6th position instead of Westville.
I would agree with you on that one because, as we know, results means everything, right? But I
Yeah,
think also if you look at Westville Boys High, the result, we can see only a 5 points difference. So I
yeah,
think if it was maybe 10 points difference, then
yeah,
maybe they would have swapped the rankings.
absolutely.
Yes. Right.
Right now, we
Now.
move to the business section of the field. We're actually going to look at the Big Five of 2025.
Right.
And our first team, and which is quite interesting if you look at the top 5, is that 3 of your top 5 teams are from the Western Capes. And it's, of course,
Yes.
the 3 Paarl teams, the Giants of Paarl, that finished first, second, and fifth.
Yes. So, right. So now we've got Paul Hun. Right. So let's see here. And as you said, we go into the business class of the top schools in South Africa.
Now, Paarl always traditionally one of the top 3 schools in South Africa. This year, they lost out on a position at top 3 and they finished in fifth. Stellenberg was the first game,
Mhm.
39-17. And look at that result against Case, 102-0. And that also, of course, shows you significantly.
Yes. And I watched that game. I, at one stage, the commentators, unfortunately, I couldn't be there in person, so I had to watch it on live streaming. And the commentators, at one stage, they were like, this looks like a cricket score. So,
Wow.
yes.
Monument, 66-16, also a huge, huge thrashing. And then Affis, strong, Strong. What a game that was.
Yes,
16 all draw.
yes. And I also watched that game. And as you know, I am a huge Afris fan.
Yeah.
I sat on the edge of my seat the whole game, and I am like, please do not lose. Just draw, but do not lose. And right at the end, Afis got a penalty where their captain and fly half Ruben Groenewald slotted the penalty, but there was silence all over the stadium. And as soon as the ball flew over and the flags went up, I was like, okay, now I can rest peacefully.
Wow. Ray College, good win against the number 4 team in South Africa, 43-31. Northwood, 46-20. Durban High School, the top school of Natal, 47-20. Paul Roos, 17-10. RTS Drosti, 93-12. Oakdale, 29-9. 50-0 against Bishops. Sachs, 82-7. And then they lost against Paul Boys in the inter-school, 33-35.
Yes. And that was also probably the biggest game of last year. As we know, 23,000 people went. I was
Yeah.
fortunate enough to watch it in the comfort of my own home. Um, but amazing. It was raining, it was soaking, it was muddy, and the people stood there. No one moved, and they watched this game. What a phenomenal game. It was really the hype it was made to be.
If you just scroll down, I believe Paul Boys were the only loss of the season.
Yes, so let's see here. There, so Paul and a draw against Office. So
Okay.
yeah, but further,
Um, which is quite interesting. If you look at the gap between your number 1 and 5, it's incredibly slim. Any of those 5 schools could have been on the top. So it's very unlucky. It's very difficult to say who's really the best because the gap between the top 5 schools are extremely slim and
yes,
extremely small. So as I said, Paul Gim could have easily finished in the top 3. They're always in the top 3 normally, traditionally.
yes,
It could have so easily been a top 3 position once again,
yes,
but they just managed to lose out in the top 3 this year, finishing in 5th.
yes. And you, as you correctly say, your top five schools, there is nothing between them. So either you're going to win, or you're going to lose, or you're going to draw. But the winning margin, losing margin will not be very significantly big. It's usually very close.
Absolutely.
Right.
Right, as we move now to Afis, the
Yes.
top school of Gauteng, of course. First match was in the,
Mm,
if you can just go up again.
This, yes. Oh, sorry. There we go.
Yeah,
Right.
Diamantfeld at the Kofsis game, 45-24, followed up with a strong, solid victory against 12th team in South Africa, ranked number 12, Helpmekaar,
Yes.
48, also the finalist of the Vaal Trophy. Paul
Yes.
Boys High, 17-25, and that was a significant loss because that could very well have decided of his fate, to finish in the top 3.
Correct. Yes.
Paul Gim, a 16-all draw. Noordheuwel, 45-27. Selborne College, 57-19. Gasfontein, 41-25. And then Grey, of course, the strongest team in the Eastern Cape,
Mm.
traditionally, 74-14. That's quite a refreshing, comprehensive victory.
And that game I watched as well. Um, Afis really came to the party. Everything just worked. Whatever they did,
Yeah,
everything just worked. And the other game I also watched was against Garsfontein. Again,
yeah,
two top Pretoria schools, and a lot of these two teams' players were fighting to get into the Blue Bulls Craven Week side. And
yeah,
this game was really very good. I think the scoreline doesn't tell the whole story, um, because both teams really came to the party. But again, now what we always say, what is the difference between the top five and the bottom five? Those last few minutes, it
yeah,
was where Garsfontein looked very close of even maybe beating Affis. And they found their sixth gear in those last 15 minutes and they took the game away.
yeah. Great College. And that was also, once again, the reason why Great College managed to finish in the top three and not Affis.
Yes,
Great College in the regional derby managed to beat them 42-37.
yes,
And that, of course, was the difference between third and fourth. And
yes,
that also decided who's going to finish in third and who's going to finish in fourth.
yes.
Case
And
65-19. Sorry, Louis.
yes, sorry, just to get back to Great College again. Look at the margin, 5 points
Yeah,
difference, right?
yeah,
So it could have gone to any side actually. I also watched
absolutely.
this game, phenomenal game, uh, side to side, up and down,
Yeah,
and very high-paced game. They gave nothing away. Again, the scoreline doesn't reflect the true match, what went on. But what an entertaining game. It was fantastic to watch.
yeah. Case 65-19. Jeppy gave them a bit of a fright,
Yes,
38-36, which is
yes.
quite a match. Maritzburg convincing victory 45-27, and they finished off against the traditional enemies, the Derby, the Pretoria Derby.
Yes,
Afrikaans school against the English school,
yes,
41-12 for the Affis.
yes. And this game I watched as well. And again, the scoreline doesn't reflect what happened in the match. For the first 20 minutes of the first half, Boys High was all over Affis. And
Yeah,
halftime came and Boys High was leading. And typical, a lot of people speculate, oh no, now the game is over. But after halftime, Affis got their whole gameplay together. And when the replacements came in and a few switches in the back line, and then they just ran riot in the second half.
yeah. The significant game for them in the season, of course, was the loss against Great College, 37-42, and that was, of course, for the deciding match to decide who's going to finish third in South Africa and who's going to finish fourth. Because
Yes,
as we know, at the end of the year standings, Great College were third and Affis were fourth.
yes. Right.
Right, so now we're starting to move into the real business section of the field. We're going to look at the big three for this year.
Right.
And it's interesting to know it's two Western Province teams and one Free State team, of course, probably one of the greatest teams in world schools rugby. Great College that
Great college.
finished in
Yes,
third for a
yes,
change this year.
yes,
Normally they are traditionally our number one school, but this year they actually lost out on the top two positions and finished in third. Now, what is quite incredible of Great College is that they've got an overall in all the history that they've played, they've got a winning record of 91%. Now that's
wow.
phenomenal, Louis.
That
In the
is,
entire history, they've only lost 9% of their games. That shows you the class of this team.
yes.
If we can move to Grey College, we still at office.
Oh dear. Okay, sorry.
But that, for me, that is
Oh,
quite phenomenal. And if you look at the number of Springboks, there's a hell of a lot of Springboks that Grey College have produced over the years.
yes.
Incredible players. And not only rugby Springboks, well-known Mr. 360, A.B. de Villiers, played fly half for Grey College. No, he played for Hafies.
He played for Affis. Yes, he
Yeah.
played for Affis. Um,
But Hansi Cornier comes from Hafies, and his brother, Frans
uh,
Cornier. Frans Cornier played Cravenvic as well as Hansi Cornier for Free
for
State.
Grey College. Yes.
And they played
So,
for Grey College.
yes. And also, if you think back to a little bit more recent, Ruan Pinar and Bismarck and Yanni Duplessis
That's
and
correct, yes.
our very versatile player Franz Stein comes from Grey College.
Wow.
Yes.
A lot of Springboks comes
Yes.
from Grey College
Um,
from way
if
back.
you do a bit of research, Grey College is always labeled as the Springbok factory of South Africa.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been to the school in 98 and it's quite significant. There's a huge clock and no one is allowed to walk through that clock until it's your matric year. And then you're
Mm.
allowed to work. You're not allowed to ring the bell, and you're allowed to walk underneath the clock. There's
Oh
quite a history
wow. Wow.
behind that clock. Incredible historical school and amazing school to experience and to see the
Yes.
boys sing. It's quite something. Atmosphere wise, to hear those boys sing at a
Mm.
rugby field or during the opening, quite phenomenal. But let's have a
Mm.
look at Grey College's season.
Right.
They've started their first game against Trio, 38-10 victory. Then Welcome Gymnasium, 60-17.
Yes.
Oakdale, good solid victory, 25-10. Hoërskool Monument, 47-8 victory. Noordheuwel, 24-22. Jeppim, 64-31.
Mm.
Outeniqua, 29-17. And then they lost against Paul Gym, the number 5 school of 2025, 16-18. Helpmekaar, 56-14, a solid victory.
Yeah.
Garsfontein, 45-29. And then, of course, the deciding matches, which decided who's going to finish in first, second, or third. Paul Boys High that managed to finish in first position in South Africa, they lost 20-25. And that could very well have decided who's going to finish in first position and who's going to finish just outside the top 3.
Mm.
Office 42-37 and Selborne 103-14.
Mhm.
And then Grey High, the traditional derby against the two great teams,
Yes.
46-15 victory. And then Paul Roos, the
Yes.
number 5 school,
Yes.
no, the number 2 team in South Africa, they
Yeah.
managed to win by a solitary point. So all in
Yeah.
all, Grey College, unlucky to finish just outside the top 2. It could have so easily, the gap between, as I said, between number 1 and number 5 is extremely small.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, Grey College finished third, and they matched against Paul Boys,
Mm.
was very much the deciding factor of who's going to
Yes.
finish in first and who's going to finish in third at the end of 2025. But all in all, strong season for Grey College, and once again a top 3 position for 2025 in South Africa. Once
Yes.
again for Grey College.
And they produced quite a lot of SA schoolboys players last year. And we know probably the biggest hype out of Grey College of last year is Ethan the Tank Adams.
Absolutely.
Yes.
What a player. And what a
Yes.
center combination between him and Marcus Miller for the SA schools.
Yes, indeed. So, right now
Right, now we move to the top 2 teams for 2025, and it's the honors for 2025 belong to the 2 Paul teams, Paul Roos and Paul Boys.
And I believe that is where you originally come from, Steve. So you must be very proud.
Yeah, I come from the Western Cape. I was in Swanswyk in 96, giving my age away. And then I moved, of course, to the Gauteng Valley where I matriculated in Randburg High.
Yes.
Right, let's have a look at Paul Rose's season. I correct in saying that the 2nd of April was the first? Oh no, March the 21st.
Yes, sorry.
Also had an early season.
Yes.
They started off with a good solid victory against Drosti, followed it up 54-32 against Garsfontein. What a match that was.
Yes.
Garsfontein almost pulled off the upset of 2025. 26-19 against Noordheuwel.
Right.
They followed it up with a 32-7 against Grey High, the Port Elizabeth school.
Yes.
And then, of course, 46-10 against Bishops. They lost against Office. Am I
Yes.
correct?
Yes, they lost.
2018.
And again, look at the loss, the margin. 2 points.
Yeah, absolutely. 46-37 against E.G. Jansen. And then they lost 17-10 to Paul Gim. And that's why I say the gap between number 1 and number 5 is extremely slim. Any of those 5 teams could have finished in the top
Yes.
3.
Yes.
Paul Roos then followed up 40-36 against Landbou. And then they played against
Paul Boys.
Paul Boys, 36-26. And that was very much the decider, I believe, between the two teams to decide
Yes.
who's going to finish in first and who's going to finish in number 2
Correct.
for 2025. 22-3 against Sachs, and then 34-5 against Stellenberg, 21-17 against Weinberg, 48-10 against Ronnebosch. And then the biggest upset, one of the biggest upset for 2025 was, of course, the Giant Slayers Oakdale beating them 21-17. What an incredible win and significant victory that was for Oakdale.
Yes.
And then, of course, the final match, they managed to lose by 1 solitary point against Great College.
So actually not a very bad season, right?
No, I think the match that was quite significant, obviously, was of course the Paul Roos derby between the two, the English versus the Afrikaans school, and that was of course also the game that's going to decide who's going to finish first and who's going to finish second.
Correct.
So the honors belong to Paul Roos for second, and then of course Paul Boys in first.
Yes, and then we go to Paul Boys. Right. So
let's have a look at the champions for 2025 in South Africa.
Yes, here we are.
Right. Their very first match was against HTS Drosti, a strong, solid victory. Was it their first game?
Yes.
55-19.
Yes.
Office 25-17. Also a pretty solid victory.
Yes.
Oakdale, one of the biggest, the biggest upset of the year. Of course, the second biggest one was, of course, the victory of Oakdale over Paul Roos. But look at Oakdale beating number 1 and the number 2 teams of South Africa once again. 28-26 for Oakdale.
Yes.
Ronnebosch, as I said, 55-12, huge defeat for Ronnebosch. Noordheuwel 42-14. And then a thrashing, comprehensive victory against Monument, 85-0. Great College, that's a strong victory. And that also decided the fate for Great College, who's going to finish in first and third. Because if Great College won that match, I believe Great College could easily have finished number one.
Yes.
In South Africa. But Paul Boys walked away with the honors, 25-10. Weinberg, 32-26. And then, of course, the deciding match to decide who's going to be the champions for 2025 against Paul Roos. 36-26 victory for Paul Boys. Stellenberg 27-0. And then in the final 2 matches,
Stellenberg, right?
Boland Landbou 59-12.
Yes.
Bishops 33-12, Durbanville 54-14, Sachs 51-8, and then in the final game against Paul Gymnasium. And that's why I say, look at the gap between number 1 and number 5. Paul Gym finished in 5th, but yet 35-33, nothing to choose between the two teams. So that's why I say there's a very small gap between number 1 and number 5, and then a significant gap between the top 5 schools of South Africa and the lower top 10 schools of
Yes,
South
I
Africa.
agree with you
And
100%.
that basically concludes the rankings for 2025.
Yes, and that was actually, if we look at the whole season, the top five, nothing much between them.
No,
But the bottom five, gaps here and there, and I think the main thing, consistency.
absolutely. I
Yes,
must look at teams that was unlucky to miss out on the top 10. I think Helpmacar were pretty unlucky.
I think so
They
too.
could have easily finished in the top 10, but I think the decisive match were, of course, the Vaal Trophy final, which they lost against Garsfontein.
Yes, I agree with you. Yes, definitely. And also one of your traditional top 20 schools, K's, they had a very up seesaw season last year. Some games they won quite convincingly, and then they lost convincingly. So
Yeah,
unlucky for them as well.
absolutely. So as we now draw closer to our 2026 teams, watch
Yes,
out for a couple of teams. I'm looking forward to see Oakdale. That's one of my teams. I'm looking forward to see what Garsfontein's going to do, defending the trophy, the Vaal Trophy for 2026. And then, of course, I would love to see who's going to walk away with the honors between the Paul schools this year for 2026.
right.
So all in all, I think we can look forward to an exciting 2026 season.
And I also think after the loss against Garsfontein in the Noordvaal Cup final, I think Helpmekaar is going to come out with a bang this year to announce themselves again, to show they can.
Course. And of course, my dad played for Helpmekaar's first team in 1969. He
Oh,
was the wing for Helpmekaar's
wow.
first team, the Leaf van
Oh,
Staden.
that's oh, that's beautiful. Yes, I know my dad was in Affies, although he
Mm.
didn't play first team, but my uncle, his older brother, played for the first team, played
Wow.
tank. Yes,
Wow.
yes,
Right, as we have now looked back at 2025, we're now going to focus on the 2026. And of course, in our next few episodes, our focus will be the Easter festivals.
yes,
In episode 4, we've lined up an interview against one of the teams that's going to be at St. John's Festival. Louis, if you can tell us
yes,
more about that.
yes. So we've decided to attend the St. John's College Easter Festival, and we had an interview with the coach from Naji College, all the
Yeah,
way out in Australia. So they've been kind enough to invite one school from Australia, Naji College, and we will see Westlake Boys High from New Zealand coming to the St. John's Festival as well.
wow. So, of
Yes,
course, please look out for our episode number 4, where we will have an interview with Nachi's coach,
yes.
Sean Graham, I believe his name.
Sean Graham, yes.
Right.
Right.
Right. So this concludes episode number 3.
Yeah.
Again, a special word of thanks to besides myself and Louis, a special word of thanks to our journalist Anu,
Yes.
that has been working behind the scenes, getting material for us, helping us with our online magazine. And then, of course, also a special word of thanks to Sarah, Louis' beloved wife, that's also helped behind the scenes with the the
Magazine.
formation of the magazine layout. And then, of course, our cameraman Brian Dudley, that also helps us with the camera work when we go to the matches.
Yes.
That is
Right.
it from our side. And
Thank
for
you very much,
myself,
Steve.
goodbye.
Good night. And Steve, I will see you in episode 4.
Absolutely. From
Yes.
ourselves, goodbye and God bless.
Goodbye, everyone. Bye.